I record this not as testimony, but as warning. My name is Sergeant Darian Holt, Medici Division, 83rd Astra Militarum. Planetary designation, Targosa 9, Hive City, Morn Hollow. Quarantine level, absolute. All Imperial Vox channels list the Hive as already lost, yet we were still ordered in. We deployed under rad cloud dawn, the sky the color of rotting parchment. The air tasted wrong immediately, too wet, too warm, clinging to the inside of the rebreather like it wanted to get in. I logged the sensation but said nothing. We had wounded to extract, survivors to triage, contamination to classify, official expectation, minor biological outbreak, unofficial orders, determine cause, prevent spread, at any cost. The first sign something was wrong was the silence. Hives do not go quiet. Not in war, not in famine, not even in viral collapse. There are always echoes, machinery, markets, screams, hymns. But Morn Hollow was still, like breath held in a ribcage. Then we saw the bodies. A guardsman slumped against a hab wall, flak armor split open. At first I thought infection swelling had torn him. But no, it was growth. Flesh extending outward, layering in whorled ridges like coral reefs. He was still breathing, barely. Slow, wet breaths that fluttered the pink fronds sprouting from his chest. Corporal Verus gagged. I steadied him, but my own hands were shaking. I ran my autoscan. The result returned impossible viability metrics. Tissue activity at 312% regeneration baseline. No necrosis, no clotting, no healing response because there was no wound anymore. Just uncontrolled formation. I called for stretcher prep. That's when the whispering began. At first I thought it was Vox static, but the channel was closed. The whisper didn't come from machinery. It came from the flesh, the layered, pulsing folds of tissue on his torso. Tiny patterned movements, like lips forming sound without air. The words were faint, but I recognized the cadence. Not imperial litanies. Something older. Something patient. I leaned closer. A voice like breath across grave dirt. Remember your maker. The guardsman's eyes opened. He did not look at me. He looked through me. Private Rin stepped forward, hand trembling over his laser gun. Sergeant, he's praying. No, he wasn't. He was being prayed through. I ordered sedation. It failed. The veins bulged instead like they were hungry for the drug. The growth spread faster where the auto-injector pierced. That was when I understood. Intervention accelerated the condition. The more we tried to heal, the more the flesh grew. Rin scratched beneath his collar seal. Hard. Too hard. He froze. Looked at me. Sergeant, he whispered, voice cracking in fear. There's something moving under my skin. I had not yet felt fear on this mission, until that moment. We had arrived too late, and the Hive was already breathing us in. Rin tried to hide it. That was the worst part. He kept his hand clenched against his neck seal, as if pressure alone could deny whatever had begun beneath the skin. But the tremor in his jaw gave him away. We all saw it. We all pretended not to. Pretending is a battlefield skill. So is fear. We moved deeper into the hab levels. Floors sagged underfoot, swollen like overgrown scar tissue. The walls glistened faintly, as if with sweat. It felt like the Hive was exhaling, slow and deliberate, adjusting itself around us. Corporal Verus checked a door panel. It pulsed, not flickered, pulsed, like there was circulation inside the wiring. No power grid should behave like this, he muttered. No power grid should have a pulse. The interior opened into a transit hall. Bodies lined the walls, not fallen, not dead, but growing from them. Men, women and children half fused into the structure, their ribs opening like unfurling flower petals. Mouths had formed in the folds of their abdomens and throats. Some were still breathing. Some whispered, all whispered, same rhythm, same tone, the same impossible litany. Remember your maker. I forced myself to record symptoms clinically. Diagnosis demands detachment. Lesions appear as layered epithelial bloom structures. No signs of infection response. Vocalization originates from secondary tissue developments. My voice cracked. I cut the recorder. Rin stumbled. His breathing was sharp now, panicked. He tore off his glove and revealed what we feared. His veins were raising under the skin, braided like vines, pressing upward as if they wanted to escape him. "Sergeant!" Rin gasped, but couldn't finish. Something moved, just beneath the surface. We stopped. Something was pushing outward from his neck. I should have sedated him. I should have called for containment restraints. But I knew what would happen if we injected him. We'd feed it. Then we heard footsteps. Not shuffling, not staggering. Calm, measured, purposeful. A priest emerged from the adjoining corridor. His robes were torn, soaked with fluids I refused to classify. His hands were folded neatly in front of him. He walked with terrible serenity. He stopped 3 paces away. His voice was gentle, almost kind. "You are late," he said. "The Maker has already begun his work." His lips moved normally, but his teeth were wrong. Not teeth at all. Soft tissue, gristle, flexible, growing. He smiled, not with joy, with recognition. "You seek to stop what is already blessed." I raised my weapon. "Identify yourself." He bowed his head. "I once served the Emperor. Now I serve the one who remembers." Rin made a choking sound. We turned. His neck had begun to open, not tearing, blooming, a red, wet flower. And from within it, a whispering voice, not his, not human. "We remember you." We pulled back. Not a retreat, just enough distance to breathe, to think, to pretend there was still protocol to follow. The priest did not pursue. He simply watched, hands folded over his stomach, the folds of his new-grown teeth glistening in the dim. He was waiting for us to understand. That was worse than hostility. Faith is always more dangerous when it is certain. The fog thickened in the transit hall behind us. Not ordinary mist. It rolled in slow coils across the floor, rising in tendrils like seeking fingers. The movement was deliberate, intentional. Virus tested the air analyzer. The readings spiked in spore density, but no known fungus matched the pattern. "The fog is adjusting to airflow," he whispered. "No, working against it. Fog should move with drafts, ventilation, pressure shifts. But this haze drifted toward us, ignoring wind direction, ignoring gradient, ignoring physics entirely." Rin coughed, wet, choking. I steadied him, but the veins along his throat pulsed visibly now, moving with an independent rhythm. His eyes were glassy, unfocused. "Hear it," he murmured. We all froze. The whispering. It wasn't only from the bodies anymore. It was in the air. Not sound. Resonance. A low, tremoring hum just below hearing range, like a heartbeat transmitted through atmosphere. I felt it in my chest first, then behind my eyes. A pressure. A presence. Rin suddenly jerked upright, as if something had yanked his mind into attention. He pointed at the far corridor. His voice was distant, hollow. "They're calling. From the cathedral." We weren't told about any cathedral, but the map overlay in my visor updated automatically, as if responding to his words. The data flickered, glitched. An entire district was now marked with hazard symbols and loss of contact designations. That district had only been quarantined for 6 hours. That wasn't possible. We advanced step by cautious step, lasguns raised. The corridor sloped downward, unnatural in its curvature, the metal bulging outward like infected bone beneath skin. Every few meters the whispering surged. Rin leaned against the wall, nails digging into the plating. "Something's inside," he gasped. He wasn't wrong. The wall flexed where he touched it, not vibration, breathing. Vera swore and stumbled back, nearly firing. I ordered weapons lowered, not from mercy, but from fear. We'd seen what damage did. Wounds didn't open, they grew. We emerged into a collapsed atrium. Light filtered in through holes in the hive's upper superstructure, though the sky outside was still that sick, parchment yellow. Dust motes drifted in lazy spirals, but the haze moved with purpose, toward the center of the hall. Toward a cluster of bodies, soldiers, civilians, a Mechanicus tech adept, all fused at the spine, still alive. Their mouths moved in unison. Their voices were airless whispers. Remember your maker. Rin collapsed to his knees. The sigils along his throat were growing. At first, I mistook them for banners. Long, vertical shapes moving through the atrium's broken archway, swaying with slow, ceremonial rhythm. The haze parted to make way for them. No. Followed. Them, as though drawn by gravity or devotion. Then I realized they were people, or what remained of them. Skin stretched into draped sheets, rib cages unfurled like fans, vertebrae elongated into pale spines of hanging lanterns. Their limbs were intact, but too long, joints loosely hinged like marionettes, guided by unseen strings. They moved with perfect synchronicity, a procession, a ritual walk, a slow pilgrimage to something holy or profane beyond measure. Their faces were still human, still alive, eyes wide, aware, resigned. I recognized one, Trooper Holden, missing 5 days, reported KIA. He looked at me, not startled, not horrified, but relieved. Sergeant Holt, he breathed, though his lungs seemed too twisted to form speech. You came after all. Varus raised his lasgun, hands trembling. Emperor preserve us, Halden. What have they done to you? Holden smiled. Or tried to. The muscles of his cheeks weren't where they used to be. The expression rippled downward across stretched tissue like a slow wave. They did nothing, Holden whispered. They only remembered me. Rin staggered forward. No, this isn't right, this isn't. The procession stopped. Every stretched figure turned toward Rin with identical, slow grace. They inhaled. The whispering swelled, not spoken, exhaled, a single rising, unbroken note. A hymn. It rattled the plating beneath our boots, made my teeth throb in their roots. The air thickened, humid, heavy, curdling, with the copper-sweet scent of blood and incense and rot. Rin screamed, not from pain, from recognition. I know it. I know the hymn, he shouted, clawing at his chest as though trying to tear out the memory itself. It's older than words, older than us, older. His sentence dissolved into gagging as his throat opened another fraction of an inch. I grabbed him, forced him down, tried to hold him still. His pulse beat out of sync with his heartbeat. Something else was keeping rhythm. The procession continued forward, not toward us, but toward the central atrium, as if we were merely observers in a ceremony already ordained. Holden, if it was still Holden, paused at my side. He leaned close. So close I could smell the warm, living rot radiating off the blooming muscle of his ribs. Do not fight it, Sergeant, he said gently. The body only grieves when it is incomplete. His mouth was inches from my ear when he whispered, the flesh remembers its maker. The hymn surged again. Rin collapsed. And this time, the choir answered him, from inside his throat. We carried Rin into a side chamber, if chamber was even the right word anymore. The walls had begun to sag, bowed outward with slow internal pressure, like muscle swelling beneath bruised skin. Every surface gleamed with a faint organic sheen. The hive was changing faster now. Or we were. I couldn't be certain. Rin convulsed on the floor, back arching so sharply. I thought his spine would crack, but it didn't. Instead, it elongated, vertebrae shifting under the skin like beads pushed along a string. Hold him! I barked. Varus pinned his shoulders. Trooper Kale his legs. Rin screamed. No, something screamed through him, a sound too layered to be a single throat. The air vibrated. My vision blurred at the edges. I had to act. I pulled open my medici kit. Scalpel, clamps, Preservation linen, restraints, tools meant for repair, never meant for what I was about to do. "Sergeant," Varys said, voice breaking, "this isn't treatment. This is observation," I snapped. "If we don't understand this, we're already dead." No one argued. I made the first incision. The blade slid in too easily. No resistance, no scar tissue, no pain response. Instead of blood, a clear fluid pooled out, warm, thick like oil. Beneath it, the muscle moved, not spasming, not reacting, organizing. Latticed fibers wound themselves into patterns, coiling, repeating, symmetrical, sigils, not random, not chaos, design. Rin sobbed, eyes wide with terror he couldn't contain. "Sergeant, I can feel it thinking." The words hit harder than any wound. I parted the tissue further. His organs were rearranging, not dissolving, not mutating randomly. They were restructuring, building towards something. A lattice of muscle spiraled around his heart like a blooming flower. Anemone-like tendrils extended toward the lungs, fusing, synchronizing. The body was becoming a choral instrument. The whispers in the air deepened. The procession's hymn echoed faintly through the corridors. Rin's pulse accelerated to match the rhythm. Varys gagged behind his rebreather. "Halt! We have to end this." "No," I said, too fast, too firmly, because I finally understood what was wrong. Or rather, what was right. This wasn't disease. This was intent. This was construction. Rin's breathing slowed. He looked at me, not pleading, not panicked, but awestruck, reverent. "It remembers us, Sergeant," he whispered. "It remembers what we were before pain, before scars, before war. It's giving us back what we lost." I stared at the spreading sigil patterns, spiraling into identical symmetry, not just on Rin, but on my gloves. The sigils were not stains, they were growth. I felt something shift beneath my own skin, a slow, patient stirring, as if something inside me had just woken up. We left Rin stabilized. If stabilization could still be defined as securing a man whose organs were rearranging themselves into an instrument. He no longer thrashed, he no longer whimpered. He simply breathed, slow and steady, his chest rising to the rhythm of the whispering hymn that still vibrated through the hive. The sigils on my gloves had grown, not spread, not stained, grown, as if the material remembered something my flesh had forgotten. I didn't tell the others. We stepped back into the corridor. The fog was waiting, coiled low, dense as wool, clustering near the floor like a hunting creature. Our helmets auto-adjusted for visibility, but no enhancement helped. The haze seemed to absorb light rather than scatter it. Then the vox crackled. Not static, not interference. A voice. My voice. "Sergeant Darian Holt. Medical serial 3477921. Born Hive Uslan. Age 39. Varys froze. That wasn't command. That wasn't... The vox repeated the data. Vocal tone. Identical. Pitch. Exact. Breathing cadence. Mine. But I hadn't spoken. The hive had. The choir had learned my name. Kale switched channels frantically. Secured frequencies. Encryption protocols. Scramblers. None of it mattered. The same voice spoke through every channel, every band, every wavelength we tried. Not interfering. Announcing. Varys checked the walls. It's routing through the hive itself, through the infrastructure, through the... He didn't finish, because the wall throbbed. A slow, rolling pulse, a heartbeat, deep, subtle, planetary. The hive was alive, and it knew we were here. Kale stepped back, weapon raised. "We need to exfil. This is beyond Medici classification. This is..." The vox cut him off. "Kale Vartan, 18th Cadian born, father deceased. Mother..." Kale screamed and fired, bolts of lass-light carving across the corridor. The walls absorbed the shots, not melted, not scorched, absorbed, as though light itself was being drunk. The whispering intensified. The hymn surged, low, resonant, hundreds of overlapping voices rising from everywhere and nowhere. The very air hummed against my teeth. Rin's voice joined it, faint, distant, echoing from the chamber behind us. We turned. He was standing. No stitches, no restraints, just standing. Chest rising with perfect rhythm, eyes unfocused, calm, peaceful. He spoke, and though his lips barely moved, the words reverberated through the corridor as though spoken through cathedral acoustics. It knows us because it made us. It remembers the first shape. Before the Emperor, before the Imperium, before pain. Vera stepped toward him, expression breaking. Rin, listen to yourself. This isn't you. Rin blinked slowly. It is more me than I have ever been. His voice changed, layered, harmonized. The choir spoke through him. Darian Holt, you will conduct. The hive's pulse matched my heartbeat. For the first time, I felt it answer me back. Rin did not follow us when we withdrew. He merely stood in the corridor, breathing in perfect time with the unseen pulse that echoed through the hive's bones. He did not call out. He did not threaten. He did not plead. He only listened. And I understood, with a clarity that chilled the marrow, that he was no longer waiting for us to decide anything. We were the ones being guided, step by step, word by word, breath by breath. There was only one direction left to go, down. The map flickered again in my visor. Corridors redlined, sectors, reclassified as fluid, substructures marked as unstable. But below all of that, farther than any civilian or military architecture should extend, a void space pulsed with intermittent biometric readings. No city should have a heartbeat. No building should have circulation patterns. But the hive did. And the hive's heart was calling us. We descended. The lifts were long dead, but the maintenance shafts still held. We moved slowly. The deeper we went, the more the walls changed. What once was metal plating became something softer. Not flesh, not entirely, but flesh mimicking. Strands of fibrous material webbed between support beams, thickening as we went lower, pulsing faintly with the same measured rhythm we had begun to feel behind our ribs. The hive wasn't just infected. The hive had been co-opted, converted into organ. Halfway down the shaft, Kale murmured, "What if this isn't new? What if this was always here, under everything, just dormant?" No one answered, because the idea fit too cleanly. Targosa 9 had no recorded chaos uprisings, no demonic breaches, no cult infrastructure reported. A clean world, a loyal world, too loyal. Loyalty without pain is not devotion. Loyalty without cost is not worship. Perhaps something once promised them ease, freedom from suffering, a cure for wounds that never healed. We reached the underworks. The air was humid, warm, thick enough to taste. The fog did not move here, no need. Everything here was already one. The walls shimmered with a faint greenish sheen, Nurgle's colour, the colour of rot remembered and reborn. But the feeling was not putrescence, not decay. It was fecundity, life without limit, life without end, life without boundary. Verus whispered, "This isn't corruption." I nodded, hollow. It's worship. A cavern opened before us, too vast to belong beneath a hive. Support beams hung like ribs. The floor bulged in gentle rises like muscle fibre. And at the centre, it throbbed. A great mass of fused bodies, countless thousands, layered and woven in concentric circles, like petals of a vast and obscene flower. Some bodies were fresh, some were ageless, some were bone, all were alive. Their chests rose together, one heartbeat, one breath, one organism, the heart of Morn Hollow. Kale dropped to his knees, gagging, whispering fractured prayers to the Emperor through his rebreather. Vera stood rigid, as if body and mind had separated, frozen by the horror of seeing a truth the human mind was not made to hold. I stepped forward, not because I was brave, but because the heart recognized me. The moment I crossed the invisible threshold, the flesh reacted, tissue trembling, muscles contracting in slow, welcoming waves. The bodies moved, repositioning, forming a pathway. Not for any of us. For me. The Vox whispered, "Darian Holt, conduct." And I felt it, deep in my sternum, in the marrow, in the blood. The pulse I had felt since we arrived. Not imposed, not foreign. Remembered. The heart breathed, exhaling a low, resonant choral note that vibrated through my bones. The sound was not pain, not command, invitation. Vera's grabbed my arm. "Sergeant, Holt, look at me. This isn't you. It's using your mind, your training, your discipline. It needs structure to shape the choir. You can't listen to it." He was right, but the heart did not speak to my ears. It spoke to the wounds no one saw, the ones that never healed, the ones the Emperor never answered, the ones I had carried since Uslan, since the trenches, since the burning. And when the heart spoke again, the voice was not Rin's, not Holden's, not the hive's. It was my wife's, soft, warm, forgiving. "Darian, come home." My vision blurred. My steps moved forward, and the heart opened. The heart opened like a wound remembering how to bleed. The bodies unfurled, shifting with slow, fluid grace, revealing a path that led downward into a hollow formed of rib-like arches and layered, breathing tissue. The movement was not chaotic. Each shift was timed to the great pulse that throbbed through the cavern. Every contraction had intention. This was no accident, no disease, no warp storm accident that had slipped into the cracks of imperial neglect. It was construction. We did not move at first. The horror of seeing the city's population turned into a single living organ had paralyzed us into reverent silence. There is a point at which terror and awe become indistinguishable. I don't know how long we stood there, but the silence broke when we heard footsteps, measured, calm, familiar. The priest from the upper levels emerged from the shadows, only he was no longer merely the priest. His form had been continued, augmented not by steel or gene-smithing, but by the slow, patient logic of organic remembrance. Mouths had blossomed along his shoulders, his ribs, his forearms, some old, toothless and soft, some new and wet and sharp. His chest rose and fell like a bellows powering a choir. He bowed, though the gesture was no longer entirely human. "Sergeant Holt," he said, and all the mouths whispered my name with him, layered into a chorus of breath. Varus raised his weapon. I held out my hand. "Save your charge," I murmured. "It won't change anything." The priest smiled, not triumphantly, but with recognition, as if I had finally spoken the first true sentence of our entire lives. "You begin to hear it now," he said. "The memory of the flesh, the truth beneath the cruelty of bone and war and decay. The body only suffers because it has been severed from its origin." Kale spat a curse. "Rotting heretic filth, you serve a plague." The priest turned to him, eyes serene. "I serve the one who remembers us, the one who does not demand strength to be loved, the one who does not require perfection to grant grace." Nurgle. He did not say the name. He didn't have to. The priest looked back to me. "Do you know, Holt, what the Emperor took from humanity when he forged his empire?" I said nothing. He stepped closer. The heart pulsed. The fog thickened, warm and humid like breath on skin. "He took away healing." The words cut deeper than any blade. "He taught mankind to bear its pain, to see suffering as devotion, as proof of loyalty. He made endurance a creed and called it faith. But the flesh remembers what it was before pain." The choir breathed in unison. A garden, a wholeness, a unity of all life without boundary. Kale's voice shook. "That garden is rot, filth, disease." The priest looked at him with something like sorrow. "Decay is only the beginning of renewal. All things return to the soil. All bodies soften. All bones forget their hardness. We were never meant to be rigid. We were never meant to fight forever. His gaze shifted back to me. The heart is nearly ready. It grows toward completion. But it needs one more thing. My pulse matched the hives. A conductor, I whispered. Yes, the priest breathed, more mouth smiling now than his original face. One who understands order, one who knows pain, one who has carried loss and did not break. The choir requires structure, Sergeant. A rhythm, a heartbeat. Vera staggered back. No, halt. Don't you listen to him. This is corruption. It's... But Varys's voice sounded far away. Because I was listening to something deeper. A sound beneath the pulse. A memory. My wife's laughter. Soft. Warm. Before Uslan burned. Before I held her hand as it turned cold. The priest reached out. Not in force, but in invitation. The Emperor does not speak to you, he whispered. He never did. But this one did. This one heard you weep. This one remembers every moment you bled for a world that never thanked you. My hands trembled. The sigils on my gloves pulsed with my heartbeat. Halt! Varys's voice cracked. He sounded small, frightened. Please, don't leave me here alone. I turned, not toward Varys, toward the heart, because it was calling. The priest bowed in devotion, dozens of mouths whispering, "Conduct us." I stepped forward. The heart shuddered in joy. And somewhere behind us, Rin began to sing. Not in pain, not in fear, in worship. We heard him before we saw him. Rin's voice drifted from the upper corridor, threading gently down the ribbed chamber like incense smoke. It was unmistakable. His tone, his cadence, yet layered now, carrying harmonics no human throat should be able to shape. Not a hymn of frenzy. Not the ecstatic chorus of the procession. This was soft, tender, a lullaby, a song once sung in barracks, whispered between soldiers too wounded to sleep, promising that dawn would come and they would survive it. I had heard Rin sing it once before, on another world, in another hell. Except now the notes resonated with the pulse of the heart. Each phrase slid perfectly into the greater rhythm. He stepped into view. Rin was no longer blooming uncontrollably. The growth had stabilized. No longer wild, no longer fevered. His chest had opened along symmetrical petals of flesh and muscle, revealing the shining, pulsing organs beneath. But they did not spill. They belonged there. He was not dying. He was becoming. And yet, his eyes were still his. They found me immediately. Halt, he said softly. Not layered, not distorted, just Rin. I'm still here. Varys took a half step forward, hope flooding his voice. We can still save you. Rin smiled gently, with pity more than warmth. No, you can't. The priest watched in silence, heads bowed in reverence, as though this moment had been foretold. Rin walked toward us, bare feet whispering across the warm, breathing floor. His new anatomy moved with fluid ease, every shift of muscle purposeful, controlled. Not monstrous, not twisted, refined. He stopped an arm's length from me, and for a moment, we were just soldiers again. Halt, he said quietly. I need you to do something. His breath shook, and that terrified me more than anything else. Rin was not afraid of dying. He was afraid of continuing. I can feel it learning from me, he said, voice trembling in a way no mutation could imitate. Every memory I have, every word I ever spoke, every prayer I whispered in the dark when I thought nobody heard. He swallowed. His throat moved like braided cords. It's not taking them. It's cherishing them, using them, making them part of something larger. He looked to the heart. I understand why they call it love. The word hit like a blow. Love, not plague, not corruption, not rot. Love, that which binds, that which keeps, that which remembers. His eyes shone with grief. I'm not strong enough to refuse it, he whispered. And I don't want to, not really. I don't know if any of us can resist something that offers to make all wounds stop hurting. His voice broke. But I don't want to disappear inside it without a fight. Not completely. I want something of me to remain mine. He placed my hand over his sternum, over the blooming petals of flesh. The heart pulse radiated through him like a second heartbeat layered beneath his own. Please, Holt, he said. End me, before I become only part of it. Verus choked. Kale looked away. I held Rin's gaze. He did not plead. He did not beg. He simply asked, as one soldier asks another to carry him the last few meters when the bullets are already in his lungs. I should have killed him then. Quick, clean, final. The Emperor commands mercy in death when life is torment. But the heart reacted. The walls pulsed. The air thickened. The choir swelled. Not angry, not threatened, anticipating. I hesitated, and that was enough. Rin exhaled sharply. His chest convulsed. The petals of flesh opened wider. And something new emerged. Not a creature, not a tumor, not an infection. A voice. Voiceless, soundless, yet undeniable. It spoke through every surface in the chamber. Mercy is not needed. All pain ends in us. Rin shuddered, eyes wide, tears spilling. Halt! I drove the blade into his heart. The choir screamed, not in pain, in exultation. The heart pulsed, enormous and triumphant. The hymn surged. Rin did not fall. He bloomed. His body opened like a flower in fast motion, muscles unfurling into spirals of perfect symmetry, bones elongating into lattice archways, organs weaving into the living network of the heart. He was gone, but he was also everywhere. Verus fell to his knees. Kale sobbed. I stood still. The priest whispered, reverent, "You have already begun to conduct." And I realized my pulse was no longer my own. It matched the heart perfectly. Something inside my chest shifted when Rin joined the heart. Not physically, not yet, but in rhythm. The beat beneath my sternum had synced perfectly with the pulse of the hive. It was not forced. It was not invasive. It simply matched, as easily as two soldiers falling into step. That was when Kale started whispering, "We have to kill him." He didn't shout it. He didn't accuse. He spoke it like weather, like inevitability. We have to kill Holt before he becomes the center, before the heart finishes choosing him. Verus didn't respond. He was still kneeling, head bowed, Rin's final moment replaying in his eyes over and over. His hands shook with grief so raw it was almost holy. Rin hadn't died in agony. He hadn't been consumed. He had transformed, a martyr to something older than faith. Kale, I said quietly, if I were gone, would the heart stop? Kale flinched, not at the question, at my tone. It had changed. He heard it before I realized it myself. Lower, richer, balanced to the hive's cadence. No, Kale breathed. It wouldn't stop, but it would choose again, and we can't let it learn how to choose. He raised his weapon. Verus stood. No. His voice sounded like groundstone. Kale, lower it. Kale did not. His grip tightened instead. Holt is already changing. Look at him. They looked. The sigils had spread up my arms, faint, like scars remembered under lamplight. The veins beneath my skin pulsed in time with the heart. The fog did not cling to me like it did to them. It parted gently around me, curling upward like affectionate smoke. Kale exhaled shakily. It doesn't want us. It wants him. That's the difference. And when he finishes turning, he won't be Holt anymore. He was right, but his conclusion was wrong. I stepped toward him. Slow, controlled, not threatening. The priest watched us quietly, reverently, dozens of soft mouths breathing in unison. Kale, I said, if you fire, the hive will react. The flesh will grow. You saw what happens when we injure anything here. You'll only... Kale's finger tightened on the trigger. The heart pulsed. The air shifted. The vox crackled, and a voice spoke through every channel. Not Rin, not the priest, not any human throat. My wife. Darian. My name. Soft. Warm. Spoken the way she said it before Uslan burned. Kale froze. Varys did too, because they knew the sound. They remembered her. They remembered the day I held her body. My breath left me like a wound opening all over again. Darian, the voice whispered, come home. My knees nearly buckled. Kale's expression fractured. It's inside you, he whispered. It's using what you love. No, the priest murmured, stepping forward with the silence of rainfall. It is remembering what he lost. Varys's voice cracked. Halt. Don't answer it. I didn't intend to, but my heart did. I spoke without meaning to speak. I miss you. The hive answered. The pulse in the walls deepened, a slow, resonant thrum that vibrated through marrow and memory alike. The sigils on my arms brightened. No light, only definition, as though something underneath the skin was moving closer to the surface. Kale staggered back, terror sharpening his voice to a knife edge. He's already gone. Varys, shoot him. Varys raised his rifle. But Varys's hands did not steady. They shook. Once, twice. Then he lowered the weapon. No, Varys whispered. I won't lose both of them. Kale screamed, a raw, animal sound, and charged forward, rifle raised like a cudgel. The hive reacted first. The fog surged upward, condensing into thick, rope-like strands of tissue that seized Kale mid-stride. He thrashed, he screamed. The fog did not constrict. It held, firm, gentle, unbreakable. It doesn't want to kill him, I whispered. The priest smiled. It only wants him to listen. Kale's screaming turned to sobbing, turned to pleading, turned to silence. And when he looked up again, his eyes were full of wonder. The heart pulsed. The chamber breathed. The choir whispered my name again, not as command, not as possession, as welcome. Darian Holt, conduct. And this time, I did not say no. There is a moment in every battle where the victory is already decided, though the killing has not finished. A shift in wind, a break in a line, a pulse of certainty behind the sternum that whispers, it is done. That moment had come, not for us, for the hive. And yet, we still tried to run. Not because survival was possible, but because habit is stronger than revelation. Training is stronger than fear, and we were still guardsmen, even as the hive whispered through our blood. Kale, Varys, moving out, I said, though all three of us knew my voice no longer belonged entirely to me. We retraced our steps through the pulsing tunnels. The walls had shifted again, no longer metal undergrowth and muscle veneer. They were fully organic now, ribbed with fibers that tightened and released in slow rhythm, like a diaphragm breathing. The floor was warm underfoot, the air thick with moisture. No fungus, no decay, no rot. Just life without boundary. We emerged in a transit junction that had once been ferrocrete. It was now a cathedral of living tissue. Arches formed from fused bone and hardened cartilage. Veins ran like banners overhead. The fog had risen high, no longer creeping but floating, weightless. And the hive was singing. Not words, not hymns, something deeper. A resonance that bypassed the ears and went straight into the nerves. Kale inhaled sharply, awe softening his features. The fog coiled around him like affectionate cloth. His voice was barely breath. It's beautiful. Varys grabbed his arm, fierce and desperate. Don't listen, don't look, don't feel, just move. I don't know if Kale heard him. I don't know if I wanted him to. We pressed forward, forcing our way through corridors that no longer aligned to the original layout. The hive did not block us. It simply guided us. Doors opened where no doors were. Walls parted like curtains of muscle. The choir whispered encouragement, not coercion. This was not a trap. This was a return. And yet, we kept going. We reached an access lift shaft. Varys pried the doors open manually, hands shaking, breath ragged. The shaft was no longer metal. It was a throat. Fibrous muscle rings pulsed gently along its length, wet and glistening, contracting in slow waves. Kale made a sound that was half sob, half laughter. It wants to carry us. It's offering us safe passage. Varus broke then. Not physically, inside. We are not meant to be safe here. I placed a hand on his shoulder. It was not reassurance. It was recognition. He was the only one left who still believed escape mattered. We climbed, not down, but up. The hive allowed it, not fighting us, not hindering, just watching, listening. We reached the surface-level transit hub, where we had first entered Morn Hollow. Daylight should have shone through the broken superstructure above. Instead, the sky was veiled in roiling green clouds, thick and low, flashing faint internal lightning like the synaptic misfires of a dreaming god. The air tasted of copper and new growth. And then, the Vox came alive, not the hive, not the choir, imperial command. Static at first, then a voice, cold, flat, final. Containment protocol has failed. Confirmation of mass biogenic corruption. Civilian and military losses exceed strategic recovery threshold. Varus's breath hitched. No, they can't. The voice continued. Exterminatus ordnance en route. Kale sank to his knees. Varus staggered backward, choking on his breath. I felt the hive pulse through me. Steady calm, inevitable. This was not defeat, this was completion. The voice on the Vox read, coordinates, our coordinates. Then, Emperor, forgive those souls who remain. The channel cut. Silence. Varus shoved me, hard, rage breaking through the horror. This is your fault. You let it inside you. You let it choose you. His fists struck my chest. Then slowed. Then stopped. Because he realized something. My heart was not racing. It was not panicking. It was steady. Perfectly steady. Matching the hive. Matching the heart. Matching the choir. The hive was not afraid of exterminatus, because death was not an ending to it. Death was initiation. Kale looked up at me, tears streaming, expression radiant. It's not trying to survive this, he whispered. It's waiting. The hive pulsed, a single massive anticipatory heartbeat. The saint was nearly born. The sky churned with the color of infection remembered. Verdant green, heavy and roiling, like storm clouds swollen with stagnant water. Not natural clouds, there was shape inside them. Movement like muscle contraction, slow and tidal. Lightning flared, but it was not white. It was the color of new flesh, pink and glistening. The exterminatus ordnance was not visible yet, but we could feel it. A pressure in the air, a gravity of inevitability. Something vast and burning was coming from orbit, and the hive knew. The pulse in the walls accelerated, once every 2 seconds, then once every second, then faster, aligning with my heartbeat until the rhythm was no longer mine or the hive's, but a single, shared cadence. Kale was still kneeling, head bowed in something close to prayer, not to the Emperor, to continuity. Varus stood rigid beside me, hands clenched, jaw locked, grief and rage twisted into something dangerously close to fanatic resolve. We have to go back, he said, voice hoarse. We have to destroy the heart ourselves. If we can sever it before the bombs hit, maybe it won't complete. No, I whispered. He rounded on me, fury flaring bright. No? Halt, the heart is using you. The whole hive is shaping itself to you. If exterminatus hits while the choir is still singing. He didn't finish. He didn't have to. The thought had already formed fully in all our minds. Exterminatus would not stop the birth. It would fulfill it. The saint the heart was forming was not meant to rise into a living hive city. It was meant to grow from ash. The destruction of Morn Hollow, the death of millions, the vaporization of the hive's biomass, that would be the nutrient wave, the final offering, the mass sacrifice. The hive had not failed defense. The hive had engineered it. Varus stumbled back, realization hollowing him out. "They wanted exterminatus," he whispered. "They wanted the Imperium to burn this place, to feed it, to baptize it." Kale let out a soft, broken laugh. "They called it love," he murmured, voice cracking. "An ending to suffering, an end to fear." But there was no joy in him, only surrender. The choir thickened in the air, the resonance deepening until it vibrated our teeth, our bones, our nerves. The hive was preparing. The saint was crowning. The priest of many mouths descended the corridor toward us, robes dragging like shed skin across the floor. His many lips whispered in perfect unison. The final litany begins. Varus drew his sidearm. The priest did not flinch. He only bowed his heads. "You may fire," he said gently, "but the choir will only grow in the wound you leave." I put a hand on Varus's arm. He jerked away like I had burned him. "Don't touch me." For the first time since this began, that hurt. Not because of rejection, because the human bond between us was now brittle, fragile, threatened. The heart wanted me whole, and Varus was the last piece holding me human. "We don't have much time," I said quietly. "If the heart completes the saint when the bombs hit, the birth will spread across the planet, maybe farther, maybe system-wide." Varus swallowed. "So what do we do?" I looked into the hive, into the breathing walls, into the fog that curled like patient hands. There was only one path. "We silence the choir," I said. Kale's eyes widened, not in horror, but awe. "You would disconnect it," the priest said softly. "You would cut the heart off from its song." "That's the only way," I answered. The priest nodded, respectful, almost mournful. "It will not stop the saint from being born," he said. "Only delay it, only wound it, only make it remember pain, once more." "I know," I whispered. "And," the priest continued, "to silence the choir, one must take its place." Varus stared at me. "No," he said. "No, Holt. You don't need to do this. We can find another way. We can—" "Varus." He fell silent. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't command. I just said his name the way he had said mine, back when we were just soldiers in the dirt with no gods whispering behind our ribs. "You know it has to be me." His face crumpled. Not in disbelief, in acceptance. He had known since the moment we saw the heart, maybe even before. Something inside me had always been waiting for this. Not destiny, not corruption, recognition. Kale stood. "I'll go with you," he said quietly. "No," I said. "You stay here. Someone has to witness. Someone has to remember the truth. Not as the ecclesiarchy will tell it. Not as the Inquisition will rewrite it. As we saw it, Kale's breath trembled. Varus wiped his eyes with the back of his glove. The priest stepped aside and gestured toward the descending corridor. "Go then," he murmured, "to where all flesh returns." The hive parted. The path to the heart unfurled. The song surged. The pulse aligned. I walked, not with fear, not with surrender, but with the steady, controlled cadence of a soldier advancing into gunfire, knowing the shot that will kill him has already been fired. Behind me, Varus whispered my name, not in grief, in prayer. The saint stirred beneath the city. The sky began to burn, and I descended to silence the choir. The descent to the heart was not a path anymore. It was an artery. The walls tightened and loosened in slow peristaltic, waves like a throat swallowing air. The ground beneath my boots pulsed, warm and pliant, not soft like decay, but resilient like living tissue. Every step I took reverberated upward through the hive, and I felt it respond, not resisting, not hindering, but adjusting around me, guiding me, accepting me. The choir deepened the farther I went, no longer dispersed through walls and fog, but emanating directly through the flesh of the hive, carried by marrow resonance and nerve conduction. The sound bypassed my ears entirely. It spoke through muscle memory, through heartbeat, through breath, and breath was everything here. Humidity clung to my lungs like wet velvet, warm, alive, intimate. The pathway widened, opening into a vast chamber that must once have been industrial infrastructure. Support scaffolds and ferrocrete braces jutted outward like broken ribs, overgrown with layers of vascular network and thick, glistening tissue. The ceiling curved high above, draped in webs of living fibers glowing faintly green, with veins of bioluminescence. It did not feel like entering a structure. It felt like entering a body. And at its center, the heart stood fully revealed. Not spherical, not mechanical, not organ-like in the way a human heart is understood. It rose like a cathedral, a towering convergence of bodies, millions of them, woven into petaled layers of muscle, bone, and sinew. They were not rotting. They were not decomposing. They were alive, every cell vibrant with energy. Some faces were visible. Some eyes watched. Some mouths moved slowly, whispering the eternal hymn. They did not beg. They did not mourn. They sang. And emerging from its core, the saint. A shape suspended within a chrysalis of thick, translucent membrane. Limbs half-formed, ribcage expanding, skull smooth and eyeless. Not monstrous, not deformed. Human. Too human. Beautiful in the way that a newborn is beautiful. Pure, unscarred by pain or memory, but scaled vast like a god's infant. The membrane pulsed with fluid that glimmered gold and green, and every beat of the hive heart pumped more into it. I stepped forward, breath shallow. The saint turned its head. It had no eyes, yet it saw. Not me. What was inside me? A ripple surged through the hive. The choir recognized me. The pulse aligned. My heartbeat stuttered, then matched the rhythm perfectly. My chest tightened, not in pain, but in completion. This was the moment the hive had been growing toward, not just merging flesh, not just remembering old wounds, not just ending pain. The hive wanted order, structure, conduction, a center, and I was built for that. Every command I had given, every life I had triaged, every death I had witnessed, every grave I had dug, every name I had remembered. The hive didn't want my submission. It wanted my leadership, my voice, my rhythm, my will. The saint shifted in its chrysalis, ribs opening and closing like gills, like petals. The membrane trembled. The choir's pitch sharpened, resonating the chamber with a terrible and sacred anticipation. I stepped closer. I don't remember deciding to. The hive floor rose gently beneath my steps, lifting me toward the saint like a mother raising a child to her breast. The air thickened, rich with the scent of warm skin and clean sweat. Not decay, not infection, recognition. "Darian Holt," the choir whispered, not voiced, not spoken, remembered. The sound came from everywhere. Walls, veins, marrow, memory. I reached the base of the heart. The membrane parted, slow, delicate, tender. The saint's face was without features, yet it looked like her. Not fully, not in shape or detail, but in the gesture of it. The softness of the brow, the peacefulness of the jaw, the quiet, knowing sorrow of someone who has seen suffering and chosen to hold it rather than fear it. My throat closed. My lungs stuttered. My heart beat once, hard. The hive shuddered in answer. And then I saw my hands were changing. The sigils beneath my skin rose like braille. The bones in my wrists elongated, subtle and slow, as though they were simply remembering their true shape. I was not becoming monstrosity. I was becoming conductor, the bridge between the hive and the saint, the nervous system that would allow the new god body to move, breathe, live. But to conduct the choir, I had to enter the heart. The saint extended a hand, not physically, but in the shape of invitation. A place was opening in the heart's structure, shaped precisely to my form, as though it had always been there, waiting. I felt my knees weaken, not with dread, with relief. The pain of memory, the ache of loss, the weight of unhealed grief. All of it could end, not be forgotten, not erased, held, shared, dissolved into something larger. Footsteps echoed behind me, slow, uneven, human. I turned. Varus. He had followed, not to stop me, to say goodbye. His voice broke open like a wound that had never healed right. Don't let it take you alone. My breath shattered. The saint pulsed, waiting. The heart throbbed, ready. The sky above roared. The exterminatus was incoming. We had seconds. I looked back at Varus. He nodded. I stepped into the heart. And the choir screamed in joy. The heart closed around me like a cathedral of ribs. Warm, pulsing, alive. Not crushing, not consuming, accepting. The interior was a symmetry of muscle and membrane, interlaced with networks of glistening nerves that pulsed with a luminous, soft green glow. Each nerve thread carried voices, the choir's many murmurs passing through them like wind moving through tall grass. The saint hovered before me, still suspended in its chrysalis of translucent flesh. It was so close I could feel its warmth radiating like a hearth fire. The pulse from the heart echoed through the chamber. Slow, steady, perfect. And my own pulse beat in lockstep. Varus stood just inside the chamber entrance, breathing hard, clutching his laser gun like a relic. Halt, he said, voice breaking. I'm still here. A foolish human part of me was grateful. The saint turned its eyeless head toward Varus, not hostile, not curious, but simply aware. It knew him, knew all of us, knew every scar of every soldier who had bled in this city, because every wound had fed it, every death had nourished it, every grief had remembered it. This was the answer the hive had promised. No more loneliness in suffering, no more silent agony, no more dying in the dark, unheld. The choir deepened, rising into a chord of welcome. My body responded instinctively, chest expanding, breath synchronizing, nerves aligning. I felt the moment of union approaching. The saint's chrysalis was thinning. The membrane peeled back in slow, reverent motion. Muscles flexed, like wings preparing to unfurl. It was ready to be born, and I was ready to guide it. Until I remembered the trenches, not the battles, not the victories. The day I held my wife as she died. Blood soaking into my uniform, her hand going slack, and the emperor was silent. The hive offered what the Imperium never had, an end to pain, but the cost was every self, every boundary, every name dissolving into choir. I thought I had accepted that. I had been prepared to accept that. But Varus spoke, the simplest words in the universe. Halt. If you leave us, who will remember us as we were? It was not a question of salvation. It was a question of memory. The saint reached for me. I reached back. And then I stopped. Not because of fear, not because of doubt, because of love. Not love as the hive defined it. Not love without pain. Not the love that dissolves the self, the humankind, the kind that hurts. I placed my hand on the saint's chest, and I refused. The choir trembled, the heart spasmed, the saint faltered. I drew a breath, not synchronized. My heartbeat stuttered, off rhythm, and I forced it to stay that way. A conductor shapes rhythm, so I changed the beat. I clenched my jaw, forcing my heartbeat into irregular cadence, a jagged, broken rhythm that did not match the hive. Pain lanced through my chest. The choir recoiled. The nerves in the walls shuddered. The saint spasmed, membrane rippling violently. The hymn faltered. The hive screamed, not in hate, but in confusion. No one had ever refused joy. The heart convulsed, walls heaving in massive contractions. Veins burst, spraying warm, green-lit fluid. The choir's voice splintered into 1,000 discordant notes. The saint reached again, reflex more than intention. I grabbed its hand, its forming hand, and anchored it, not to pull it free, to hold it still, to force its pulse to break rhythm with mine. Pain exploded through my nerves. My bones felt soft, melting, reforming. My vision blurred, my skin crawled with shifting geometry. Sigils writhed beneath my flesh like living ink. But I held. And through the screaming, a voice broke through the noise. Vera's. He had dropped his gun and was shouting words I couldn't hear. Not over the choir, not over the saint, not over the hive. But I felt him, his presence, his refusal to abandon me, his memory of me, of the man, not the conductor, of Holt. My name. I drove my palm against the saint's sternum, and with the last strength of a soldier who had buried too many friends, I forced my heartbeat into a violent arrhythmic spasm. My heart broke, and the hive heart broke with it. The saint convulsed, its chrysalis rupturing in a shockwave of fluid and sound. The choir screamed, collapsing into silence so sudden it was like the entire world had inhaled and forgotten how to exhale. The heart stopped, not completely, but its rhythm was shattered. The hive fell quiet. Verus collapsed to his knees. The saint sagged in its cradle, unborn, unfinished, incomplete. And I did not fall, but I was no longer standing of my own will. The heart held me upright. I was fused into the nerve lattice. My arms merged into sinew strands. My spine locked into the vascular web. I had become the silence in the choir. The heart would not regrow a conductor. It had me forever. Outside, the exterminatus fire began to fall. The sky turned to burning glass, and the hive's final breath was mine. There are silences so complete they erase the memory of sound. The exterminatus fell upon Hive Mournhollow in a rain of starfire. Orbital incendiaries struck first, collapsing ferrocrete towers into radiant slag. Then came the atmosphere burners, igniting the very air. Wind became flame. Clouds became molten. Stone softened, then ran like wax. The hive city screamed, not in pain, but in release. Heat rippled through the cathedral heart. The outer layers shriveled and blackened, the once glimmering vascular networks collapsing into ash. Muscle hardened into brittle glass. Bone cracked like river ice under sudden thaw. But the inner layers did not burn. They sealed, not through intention, through memory. I did not feel heat. I did not feel burning. I felt only pressure. The heart contracted around me, a final protective reflex, like a mother shielding a newborn with her body. The nerve lattice tightened. My spine locked fully into the structure. My ribs fused with the saint's unformed thorax. The saint did not die, nor did it live. It waited, and I waited with it. Time passed, but I could not measure it. The heart no longer pulsed regularly. My heartbeat was the only rhythm now, faint and thin, echoing through tunnels of cooling flesh and stone. No choir, no hymn, no voices, only breath. Slow, distant, mine. Somewhere far beyond the vitrified husk of what had been Mournhollow, the world turned. Seasons shifted. Storms came and passed. Ash hardened into rock. I did not move. I could not. But I was alive, not in the human sense, not in the sacred sense. Alive the way memory is alive. Alive the way grief is alive. Alive the way love refuses to rot. Then, footsteps, boots on stone, metal on glass, the hiss of sealing helmets, the whine of servo motors, the rustle of incense-threaded air, Mechanicus, Explorator salvage team, machine tenders of the dead. They cut through the vitrified shell, servo saws screaming as shards of glass flesh fell away in glittering heaps. Their voices were flat, Binharic coded, emotionless, residual biosign detected. Energy signature anomalous. Proceed with containment protocols. They found us. The saint's unfinished form, pale, monstrous, still suspended in its cracked chrysalis, and beneath it, fused into the nerve lattice of the hive heart, me. My armor was gone. My skin had merged with the architecture. My face was half veiled in ossified muscle. My ribs were open like the petals of a withered flower. I should have been dead. I was not. One Magos approached, mechadendrites shifting like steel tongues. Subject displays minimal cardiac activity, neural flux present. This one lives. Another voice, deeper, layered with vox distortion. It remains aware. The Mechanicus did not scream. They did not recoil. They only observed. Their world has no place for horror. The Magos studied the saint, its half-formed body shining faintly beneath a glaze of cooled biological resin. Incomplete ascendant bioform. Ritual halted. Potential data salvation valuable. Then, a machete of logic fell into place. This is not corruption. This is design. One tech priest reached out. Not for the saint, for me. Their metal hand pressed where my sternum had once been whole. The contact echoed through the remaining nerve web like a bell. My heartbeat answered, once, twice, steady. The Magos froze, not in fear, in recognition. It conducts the entire structure. It is the pattern memory, the choir's archive. Archive, not host, not prison, not victim. Archive, a record, a witness, a seed. My voice rose, not through air, not through throat, but through the hive's buried marrow. Do not awaken it. The sound vibrated their armor, the chamber, the world beneath them. The Magos paused. The Mechanicus do not pray, but they know when something should not be touched. They withdrew, slowly, respectfully. The saint remained still, silent, waiting. The tech priest spoke a final command. Mark this place. Seal it. Worship nothing here. Return never. They left. Light faded. Silence returned. But they had not destroyed the heart. They had not burned the saint. They had not killed me. They had only preserved us. A tomb. A seed vault. A memory. One day, someone will come again. Desperate. Wounded. Carrying pain no prayer can hold. They will hear the pulse. They will follow it. And the saint will wake, not as plague, not as monster, but as love that refuses to die. The hive does not forget. The flesh does not forget. The heart does not forget. I do not forget. And somewhere deep in the cooling dark, where bone meets stone and memory meets marrow, my heartbeat continues, slow, patient, faithful, waiting. Flesh remembers its maker.